Hello there, thanks a lot for coming by PosterCentral.com's video blog today. I'm Pete Howard, and boy, I'll tell you, what better way to invoke 1960s rock concert nostalgia than with a nice looking ticket stub by the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And boy, is this one ever, I'll tell you. Boy, holy cow. Now, it is a little bit faded. It was in a frame for a long time, exposed to natural light, and so the colors are dialed back a little bit, but you can clearly see it's just a lovely blue on a peach background, and just really a nice looking ticket for that reason. And look at that band logo on there. I'm going to move this in closer for that. Wow, that right off the cover of his first album, Are You Experienced? The same, stylized lettering for the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and that just looks so darn cool. That's just so what makes collecting concert memorabilia so much fun, is when you know the promoter and his designer and the ticket manufacturer, just collaborated and got something really nice, something to be really proud of, and put so much time and thought and effort into their materials. It's just a great thing to look back on today. And what's funny is this stuff was not created to last a long time. I mean, if you think about it, 1968, nobody was collecting ticket stubs yet. People would save their own, sure, but there was no organized hobby yet, no collector magazines or record swap meets yet, no plastic holders to put them in, nobody following bands on tour, to get the tickets and everything. So this was very much an item of the moment, and I think, they just had in mind Jimmy's mantra or ethos, and that is cool and groovy. And I would say they certainly did a good job of it, that's for sure. Now remember, the bar had been set rather high earlier this year up in San Francisco with Rick Griffin's marvelous concert poster for Bill Graham. That would be the Flying Eyeball BG 105. So everybody involved with Hendrix concerts after that point probably had an eye on that. So as you can see, this has not just the logo, it's also got a touch of flower power in there, some nice design graphics on the blue background. And it does say, I'll go ahead and read it to you, I think it's a little bit too light to read on screen, Scenic Sounds Production Company presents In a Dance Concert. Now that's kind of interesting because that term was a little out of date by mid-1968. This was very much, toward the end of the transition from sock hops and dancing to pop bands in the mid-60s to acid rock, and people much more inclined to just jam the front of the stage and stare upwards at their heroes and not necessarily move to it. And of course you had the advent of drugs as well, really mellowing people out. Although I'm sure in a situation like this, with open seating and a wide open floor, lots of people were dancing perhaps at the back of the hall and off to the side. Now notice there, beneath the Experience, it does say Vanilla Fudge, a very common band on Jimi Hendrix concert materials from the late 1960s. He did play with them a lot. And as you can see, there's 6 lines of vertical text there, so all we have to do is simply turn the ticket, and I'll tell you what it does say on there. And this is the functional part. This is what tells people what they need to know. It starts off with, as you can see, Thursday, September 5, 1968. Oh man, what timing in Jimmy's career. Hello. It was 2 weeks before the release of All Along the Watchtower, Jimmy's landmark Bob Dylan cover that was, as far as I'm concerned, the best single of his career. And it was 1 month before the release of the landmark Electric Ladyland album. So simply wonderful timing in Jimmy's career. And then below that it does say 8 p.m. Swing Auditorium, and that place didn't have very good ventilation, so all reports I've seen indicate that place was an absolute sauna on this particular summer evening. Then it says National Orange Show Fairgrounds, San Bernardino, California. Now notice what's missing. There's no row number, section, or seat number. Well, that's because it was general admission, and that kind of goes hand in hand with being a dance concert. Now interestingly, the back of this ticket, take a look at that. Yeah, some bright orange going on. So even the back of the ticket got some love from the ticket printers, so you just have to really dig that, man. Cool and groovy. Now, just to make sure you know how cool and groovy this ticket is, I'm going to contrast it with another Jimi Hendrix ticket from a few months later, the spring of 1969. Aha! Yeah, now this is a more conventional ticket. This is, of course, the stub that I just put on a blackboard for a moment just to show you. Look at this, Memphis, Tennessee, at Ellis Auditorium, called just Auditorium on this ticket. Much more typical of a 1960s concert ticket stub. I mean, you had a lot of ticket companies in the 60s, like Globe Ticket Company was a big one. And they were handling a lot of events, tours, the circus, sporting events, and everything else. So they had just highly functional templates that they would strip in, you know, the artist name or the event name and the seat location, the date, the price, and all that stuff. So as a result, you have, you know, just a general common ticket template like this. But what's interesting is us ticket collectors from, you know, whether it's rock in the 50s and 60s or whatever, we still dig these. These are great. These are known as hard tickets, and they're infinitely better than what came along in the early 70s and very late 60s, and that, of course, is Ticketron. Say nothing of print-at-home tickets we have today. So these will do just fine. Thank you very much. But you know, you needed a high degree of functionality with tickets and ticket stubs. I mean, here you have thousands of people going into a venue, you know, all in a very short time, and you couldn't have any ambiguity on your tickets and stubs. It had to really just laser focus, give the people and the employees the exact indication of what section you're in, what row and what seat and all that stuff. So for such a small ticket stub like this, there's something really great about it and something really weird about it. What's really great is the inclusion of Jimi's entire name. That's right. Take a look at that. It does say Jimi Hendrix in its entirety. I mean, that's a yahoo for ticket collectors. You know, I've never seen a study done on it or anything, but you talk to any serious ticket collectors, and sure, everybody likes bigness and color and stuff, but the number one priority is to get every letter of the star's name. And luckily, this thing succeeds, even though it's a very small stub. By the way, I should say a couple times during this video the focus might get a bit soft and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm not a professional videographer. I'm a music historian and collector. I should probably hire a pro to do these. But anyway, so Jimi Hendrix being on there entirely, you know, right below Concerts West, that's just really fun. What you do lose is the radio station call letters. WHBQ was over here in the part that was retained, and of course the word experience. It would be nice to get experience along with Jimi Hendrix, granted, but you know, boy, when it comes to that name, every letter counts. If you're a ticket collector, you're nodding your head. If you have an H-E-N-D stub that's been torn there, and you see one up for sale that's H-E-N-D-R, the exact same stub, man, you're in for an upgrade because, you know, every letter just really counts when it comes to collecting these things. So to get it all on there is really fun. Now the weird thing about this ticket, 13. Wow, what does that mean? Because the concert was April 18th of 1969. Well, educated guess on my part is that the 13 was simply a very big, you know, very big piece of evidence or whatever, a mark to identify the early show for the ticket takers and box office personnel. I mean, there were two shows this evening. They were 7 and 9:30 p.m. And when, you know, these people streaming in the door with their tickets, they really, you know, the ticket takers needed to be able to quickly in an instant distinguish if it was the wrong ticket. So perhaps this was the 13th concert in a series for Ellis Auditorium or for the radio station WHBQ. Very hard to find that out present day over half a century later, but this is a 7 p.m. ticket, and if you had a 10:30 p.m. ticket stub, or 9:30 p.m., excuse me, I'll bet dollars to donuts, it does not have a 13 on there, it has something else. Jumping in now with a whole different kind of used concert ticket, one that was never torn because there's no seat numbers on there. It was general admission, so you just turned this in when you walked in the door, but it was definitely used. Lewiston, Maine, March 16th of 1968. It does say admission $3 on there, and it's got a serial number, but no day of the week and no year listed. Just 8 p.m., Lewiston Armory. And right there in the center of the ticket, the Jimi Hendrix Experience in concert. A very simple peach-colored ticket. And look what was rubber stamped on the back of some of these. Is this cool or what? Are you experienced in red ink? How nice is that? Wow. Thanks a lot for dropping by. Have a good day, and we'll see you again soon.